Ladies and gentlemen,
exploration.
this is unbelievable. I can't believe this is happening.
Man, this don't take
I'll tell you
shit.
exactly what this is going to do. It's going to make the rich richer and the poor poorer.
The UEI was formed after the global financial collapse in the mid-21st century. It was drawn up as a means to provide highly skilled jobs that would resuscitate a dead world economy. In the early 21st century, NASA couldn't even get to the moon again, and were already setting their sights on Mars. The doubts of their previous endeavors loomed over them as they fiddled with their little tin and plastic robots behind closed doors, likely out of sheer embarrassment. The European Space Agency, as well as India, China, and Russia, all being on the brink of bankruptcy, had closed their doors. More focus turned to rehabilitating the world economy after repeated recessions. It was determined that Earth needed a joint effort to work toward eliminating all guile and infighting, allowing them to prosper again. Working together for the first time, the people of Earth were able to discover nature's secrets. First came the medical advances, then the technological. And finally, the first space friction drive was developed. Life was good, but the Earth was aging rapidly into decline. It was a frail old woman who experienced frequent earthquakes and other natural disasters in an attempt to balance itself to support the 10 billion or so people living on it. To many, the UEI meant life over death. The Marines were formed as a supplement to the United Earth Initiative. Why Marines? They seemed a natural choice for security since space exploration became a naval endeavor. Earth called upon all of its naval experience in order to successfully plot and navigate through the black of space. Marines were always considered a lightweight force that could get the job done quicker than anyone else, and tended to be more efficient. They were trained not only in weapons tactics, but more important areas, like troubleshooting complex logic systems that powered spacecraft. Needed a fire put out? They were on it. Had an emergency repair via EVA that needed to be done? They could do it. They were lean, they were mean, and exceptionally talented human machines. They thrived in problem solving. Long gone were the days when they were referred to as bullet sponges or jarheads. They were the premier go-to solution for any screw-up that occurred during the mission. They feared no death and were handsomely rewarded for their efforts when they returned home. The UEI implemented 3 platoons of Marines from its inception, one for each ship: the Halifax, the Manami, and the Angola, the latter 2 being docked in orbit and ready back on Earth. The ships were named after their places of origin. The Marines were newly formed and trained by the UEI, which focused on damage control and evading threats to the homestead. They weren't bred for war, but they were just as salty. They would drill endlessly, days and nights, in the hopes of honing their problem-solving skills in the event of an emergency. And since the 3 ships were considered vessels in the waters of space, it felt appropriate to give the onboard security such a title as Marine. Make no mistake, they were just as hard-charging and conditioned mentally and physically as traditional fighting Marines of the past. But with the ushering in of the new era, nations lost interest in the old way of kill for keeps. Earth could no longer afford to waste what little time they had left. The atmosphere was depleting, naturally, and rapidly. Too bad it took so long for everyone to witness the planet's symptoms of aging. Arguably, they could have already expanded to multiple planets by now, and everything wouldn't feel so desperate. Out of desperation comes cooperation became the new catchphrase as people came together. There were still arguments and fights, but never any battles. It's hard to justify plunder and revenge in the face of imminent death. Roanoke was the first attempted colony on a planet outside of our solar system. Everyone back on Earth celebrated for months when news came back that we had landed successfully. Of course, even with the latest in space friction drives, it took a good 50 years to get there. Communication was easier to send, but still took half the time. 25 years there, 25 years back. Most updates were about setting up camp and greenhouses, farm stuff. People made tons of money selling all kinds of t-shirts, books, movies, and even toys. The settlers were the heroes of Earth, it seemed. Later, news of the first seeds of Earth growing on Roanoke spread like wildfire. Then the hype died out. The updates became less frequent. Everyone turned back to their TVs and projection phones. After all, progress was slow, and it became an ordinary part of life. What was so special about growing potatoes and corn on another hunk of dirt anyway? There weren't many out there. Just a small orbital station that held a monitoring crew of the planet and served as a hub for communication back on Earth. Space was expensive, and the lukewarm reception on Earth prevented further progress and other ships from being made. The only ones who were excited were the security detail of Marines holed up on the station. They were the only ones who ever came back. And by the time they did, everyone they had known were dead. And they enjoyed a fat paycheck that would make the Saudi oil princes of the past centuries roll in their graves. But the settlers kept working and paying for Earth's new future with their sweat and tears. All seemed to be going well.